Princeton, New Jersey. July 1935. While collaborating at the Institute for Advanced Study, physicists Albert Einstein and Nathan Rosen publish a groundbreaking idea. They come to the conclusion that the theory of relativity actually allows for shortcuts across the space-time continuum. These paths, called Einstein-Rosen bridges, more commonly known as wormholes, connect two distant locations, making travel to the most remote stars in the universe a possibility.
What you're talking about is a structure in space that involves very, very strong bending of space and the connecting of two different parts of space. So if you think of a piece of paper curved around and then punched out and connected from one place to the other, that's your basic wormhole.
If we look at the distance from our planet to the nearest star system, it's 4.2 light years away. That means you would have to travel for 4.2 years at the speed of light, which is 186,000 miles a second, just to get there. The only way really to do that would be by something like a wormhole.
While the idea of wormhole travel offers incredible possibilities, realizing this technology poses immense challenges. Scientists estimate that creating a traversable wormhole would require a far greater amount of energy than anything we can produce today. But there is a theory that so-called exotic matter may provide the key to unlocking wormhole travel.
What you need is matter with negative mass. And we're only aware of matter with positive mass, so we call this exotic matter. Not that it couldn't exist, we're just not aware of it yet. But the bottom line is it takes huge amounts of energy to create these. Imagine taking all of Jupiter now, its entire mass, and converting that to energy. You know, you're talking to millions and millions of times more energy than you have in a nuclear bomb.
Although most scientists say that we're a long way from developing the technology to create wormholes, if such a thing is even possible at all, there are those who believe these celestial shortcuts already exist. In 1991, scientists at Vanderbilt University proposed that the chaos of the Big Bang not only created the universe, but also may have caused the formation of many wormholes billions of years ago.
During the Big Bang, space-time itself was being mashed together, expanded, contracted. And one theory says that if you had something like the size of the Himalaya mountains, the space-time around it could have been so badly stressed that it would mash this matter inside its own event horizon. In the same way, you can imagine space-time being mashed together and forming a mini wormhole.
The possible result, according to researchers, would be a wormhole about the size of an atom. Once located, these mini wormholes could possibly be stretched to create a traversable wormhole.
One of the things we know is that since the Big Bang, the universe has been expanding, which means space-time overall has been stretching. So when the universe is quite small, you make a teeny little wormhole. As that whole structure stretches, that whole wormhole stretches and grows big as well. So you could end up with a very large wormhole now.
If wormholes were created in the earliest stages of the universe, is it possible, as some ancient astronaut theorists suggest, that celestial beings have already used them to travel to Earth in the distant past?
It's very possible that wormholes or stargates opening and beings coming through them are a way to explain how man was interacting with the ancient gods.
In Suffolk County, England, there is a remote forest in the village of Rendlesham that has become famous for being the site of one of the most extraordinary UFO encounters ever reported. And some of those who experienced it believe this incident also involved time travel. The event occurred on December 26, 1980. Airman John Burroughs was performing a routine security check at a U.S. Air Force base when he received orders to investigate a possible downed aircraft.
My supervisor called me on the radio and asked me to meet up with him so we could check the east gate. We're driving down the road leading to the east gate to check on it when all of a sudden he saw some strange lights in the forest. So I decided to call it in and let him know something strange was going on. They decided to send one of the security units down, which was Sergeant Peniston. He got down there and he saw the same strange lights that we were seeing.
I could see all these multiple color lights and things like that, and the air felt different. I don't know how to really explain that, but it did feel like there was electricity on our skin and hair and stuff. But that progressively got worse the closer we got to the tree line, and it got more intense.
There seemed to be like an electricity-charged atmosphere, and then also there were points where it seemed like everything was going in slow motion.
As the servicemen approached the strange lights, Sergeant Peniston reportedly saw a large craft just beyond the tree line.
The craft was triangular in shape, measuring about 6 to 7 feet high, black in color. I had come around to the far side of the craft, and that's when I noticed that there was, inscription on the side. It is about 3 feet long, maybe 6 inches high. So I'm expecting to find, I don't know, some kind of prototype stuff, USAF. I'm looking for something very familiar. Instead of something familiar, I see these pictorial type glyphs, and got running my hand over the side of the craft. I don't know how to explain this. It's like someone was holding a picture up, okay? I could see it in my mind's eye. Zeros and ones. So I recorded those, one after another.
When Peniston touched the craft, he then said that he felt a strange download of information to his mind, and he felt compelled the next day to write down a series of zeros and ones, which we now regard as binary code.
Years later, a computer programmer took this information, ran it through a translation program, and a message emerged. The message read, "Exploration of humanity, continuous for planetary advance, eyes of your eyes, origin year 8100. When one sees origin year 8100, one is forced to speculate, might we be looking not just at extraterrestrials, but time travelers from the future?
After the incident, the U.S. military conducted a brief investigation, but allegedly tried to keep the eyewitnesses away from the press. But for Airman Burroughs and Officer Peniston, the event wasn't easy to leave behind. Both men had lasting physical effects from the encounter and even reported strange dreams.
After the incident, I started having throat and eye problems. At one point, my gums turned white. I also had vision problems, and when I went and saw the doctor, one of his first questions was, had I been ever exposed to radiation? I've definitely had dreams about it, and I still have feelings about what happened and what could happen in the future.
I got out of service in 1993. Then I was out about maybe 3 months, and then I started getting these dreams and nightmares. During the dreams, I could see that these were time travelers 40 to 50,000 years in the future. I see that the purpose to come back was to correct things, was to fix things. Something horrible has happened. Something I have to correct. But it requires time travel. It requires going back into the past. I've never had a feeling of it being extraterrestrial. It's always been that they were simply us in the future.
Could it be that the craft reportedly witnessed by James Penniston and John Burroughs came not from a distant star, but from a distant point in time. Pampa Uscama, Chile. April 25th, 1977, 4:15 a.m. Corporal Armando Valdez patrols the northern desert with a 7-man military unit. Suddenly, their lookout bursts into camp. He has just witnessed 2 bright violet lights descend from the sky and land 500 yards away.
Corporal Valdez was the leader of this patrol, and he approached these objects. What happened next is shrouded in confusion and mystery. His men saw him almost disappear into the light. He recalls getting disoriented, confused, perhaps passing out. And next thing he knew, he reappeared again. But the strange thing was that he had 5 days' growth of beard. And his watch showed a date 5 days into the future. Had he somehow been gone 5 days, and yet, to all the rest of the people in the patrol, it was just perceived as a few minutes?
We were able to interview 4 members of Valdez's squad. We interviewed Armando Valdez, and everyone corroborated that this experience had actually occurred.
Immediately following the incident, Corporal Valdez returned to his men on the verge of collapse and uttered an ominous phrase. You don't know who we are or where we come from, but we will be back soon. Based on the growing number of reports since this mysterious encounter, many believe that they were true to their word.
There are so many UFO sightings in Chile. It's a hotbed of UFO activity. And even just in the last 8 years, there have been some significant UFO sightings that the Chilean government has actually admitted to.
We see an extraordinary range of cases in Chile, from close encounters through to pilot encounters with UFOs.
I think the reason why Chile, to this day, is considered a hotspot of UFO activity is because Chile features one of the biggest uninhabited geographical locations on Earth.
The northern part is desolate desert that's virtually unpopulated. And the southern part of Chile is fjords and glaciers. It's also hardly populated down there, too. There are all kinds of hiding spots, vacant places on the map where absolutely no one goes. It's an ideal place to hide. It'd be an ideal place for an underground base.
Anything that enters our territory can hide. Centuries can pass, and no one will discover it.
Are extraterrestrials hiding in, or even below, the uninhabited regions of Chile? And if so, is it their intention to merely observe humanity? Or could there be something more tangible attracting them to this part of the world? Kingman, Arizona, May 1953. At the height of the Cold War, an unidentified object reportedly crashed in the desert sands. What remained was allegedly sent to America's most top-secret facility, Area 51. But it wasn't until 45 years later, in 1998, that a retired military engineer named Bill Uhouse came forward to make a stunning claim. The military didn't just have the extraterrestrial technology, they had an actual living alien.
Newhouse claimed that he worked in a secret laboratory, supposedly in the Papoose Mountains of Area 51 in Nevada, and that since 1953, the American government had an insectoid alien that was working with them. His name was J-Rod.
J-Rod supposedly assisted the military in understanding and duplicating the incredible power systems and futuristic technology that was combined and created for the Kingman craft.
Shortly after Bill Newhouse broke the story, microbiologist Dan Burish came forward to confirm his claim. But according to Dan Burish, J-Rod claimed that he was not an alien. What he revealed was something even more shocking.
This insectoid alien, J-Rod, said that he had actually come from our future, and that at some time in the near future to us, there is a catastrophe on this planet, and much of mankind is destroyed, and that mankind splits into two different species. And one of these species goes and lives underground, and while underground, they develop these insectoid traits, which is exactly what the Hopi and Zuni and even Navajo legends say, that during the transition period between the third and the fourth worlds, this above world of today was not habitable, and they had to go underground and live for some time with what they called the ant people. And you have to wonder if perhaps J-Rod is actually an insectoid human being from our own future.
Could the accounts of J-Rod confirm that the Hopi stories of ant people were more than just mythology? And if the so-called insectoids really do exist, is it possible that they are not aliens, but humans from the future? Cambridge, Massachusetts. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology is home to some of the world's greatest minds. MIT researchers are on the forefront of innovation, including the development of wireless transmission of power. Efficient wireless transmission of electricity has eluded scientists for years. Radio waves, microwaves, and even laser beam transmission of power have fallen short. But in 2007, MIT researchers were able to safely transmit power wirelessly 7 feet across a room. A feat heralded as a first step to cutting the power cord. Incredibly, a world in which all electrical devices would be automatically powered at all times, requiring no charging or wires, was envisioned more than a century earlier by inventor Nikola Tesla. And by some accounts, he was close to actually achieving that goal.
The ideas of Tesla for wireless power have only been briefly investigated by various scientists. And the tests that were done by Tesla in 1899 to 1900 in Colorado Springs verified the fact that the use of wireless was actually possible.
Tesla went out to Colorado Springs to see if he could send electricity miles, which is a tremendous achievement, but he had a huge tower, and there was 200 feet to the top. His assistant was located at the laboratory, and Tesla said, when I give you the signal, I want you to throw the switch and fire up the wireless system. And Tesla probably walked 4 miles away.
Tesla inserted light bulbs into the earth to see if his tower was in fact creating a wireless circuit with the ground. If so, the bulbs would light up.
These light bulbs were being lit. So he was able to establish that he could transmit electrical power over great distances. But he did keep it a secret. He even kept the mechanics a secret from his assistant, who didn't totally know all the details of what he was doing.
Shoreham, New York, 1901. Tesla convinces banker J.P. Morgan to give him $150,000 for the construction of a radio station. But instead, he uses the money to build a giant wireless transmitter he calls Wardenclyffe Tower.
Wardenclyffe was 187 feet to the top, but it also went 120 feet down into the ground. And Tesla had envisioned receiving stations which would look just like the Wardenclyffe Tower at different nodal points around the Earth. So you would jump energy by means of wireless from station to station. He even thought that he could eventually use the same system to jump power to different planets.
But Tesla's dream of creating a highly efficient broadcast of wireless electricity was cut short when in 1904, its funder, J.P. Morgan, discovered Tesla's true intentions: to provide free power to everyone on the planet. With lack of additional funding, by 1908, the project was completely abandoned. And in 1917, the tower was demolished.
No company, no corporation wants to give away its technology freely. So Tesla was shut down so that the world wouldn't have free energy.
But just how was Tesla able to transmit electricity wirelessly for several miles when modern scientists can only manage 7 feet? Tesla credited his many inventions to the ability to realize them entirely in his mind. He also described experiencing intense flashes of light, which were followed by moments of intense creativity and clarity.
He would see an invention appear before his eyes in almost holographic detail. He said that he could rotate these visions, take them apart piece by piece, and he knew exactly how he was going to build these inventions based on his visionary experiences.
One of his greatest creations is the rotating magnetic field, and that came in a flash of intuition. He felt that we were receivers, that all impulses came from the outside, and that we worked on these impulses. So he doesn't believe that they come from dreams or inner visions. He really felt that we were, in a sense, self-propelled robots.
Some ancient astronaut theorists believe there may be another explanation for Tesla's uncanny abilities and mysterious visions. They suggest these spontaneous episodes are proof that Tesla was receiving information from an otherworldly source.
These images would literally burst into his mind. Somehow, somewhere, some connection was made. And it's the same way that biblical prophets received their prophecy. Nikola Tesla was clearly in touch with something.
You have to wonder if extraterrestrials themselves weren't feeding him images of inventions that only he could understand.
Nikola Tesla felt there was a knowledge base located somewhere in the universe that all of humanity could tap into if they just knew how to properly tune their mind to this knowledge base.
Colorado Springs, July 1899. While testing a magnifying transmitter built to track storms, Nikola Tesla claims he received some sort of transmission from an unknown source.
One night he was tracking thunderstorms 600 miles away, but all of a sudden he heard these beeps. And it was 3 beats in sequence. And so it was mathematical, and it didn't make any sense to him. And the more he thought about it, he thought that they came from outer space, perhaps from the Martians.
Mars, its orbit brings it close to the Earth periodically, about once every 1.8 years. And at one of those close encounters, he believed he was picking up signals from Mars.
He most likely had a radio receiver that was sensitive enough to receive radio waves, as we now know, come from galaxies and lots of different extraterrestrial sources. So he interpreted them as signals from ETs. But perhaps he had an open channel that we really still don't understand today.
Tesla believed it's absurd to think we're the only intelligent beings in the universe. If that's the case, where are they in the intelligence hierarchy, and why wouldn't they want to communicate with an intelligent force on the Earth?
Tesla reported this otherworldly communication and proclaimed his belief in extraterrestrials in February of 1901 in an article for Collier's Weekly titled "Talking with the Planets."
Tesla became obsessed with trying to receive further radio communications from other planets. Based on these transmissions that Tesla was receiving, he developed the theory that this extraterrestrial presence had been on Earth for a millennia, that these extraterrestrials had been controlling mankind from the very beginning.
How far did these communications go? Did it lead to the point where he was actually able to receive useful information that was helping him build his inventions? Many believe that this is what happened, and that Tesla had direct contact through the things he'd invented with extraterrestrial intelligence.
But the shocking revelation was shunned by Tesla's scientific peers and led many to deem him a mad scientist.
So you have Nikola Tesla electrifying the world, literally. Then, about the time that he had a falling out with J.P. Morgan, a very powerful man, he'd also had a legendary falling out with Edison, another legendary powerful man. Then it came out that he was trying to perhaps signal the planet Mars. And his enemies exploited this, I think, to try and discredit him.
Tesla talked about atoms working like solar systems, and that light could work as a wave and a particle. Einstein got a Nobel Prize for saying light worked like a particle, and Bohr and Rutherford got a Nobel Prize for saying that atoms were like little solar systems. So why is he removed from the history of quantum physics when he really belongs at the heart of it? So I think he's been unfairly treated by the physicists, and part of the reason is his attachment to extraterrestrials.
Was Nikola Tesla simply letting his imagination get the better of him? Or is it possible he really was in contact with extraterrestrial beings? Belgrade, Serbia. Housing more than 160,000 documents, the Nikola Tesla Museum offers rare insight into some of Tesla's future plans, including what some believe to be drawings of spaceships. According to historians, Tesla began work on his flying machine in 1910, focusing on the use of field propulsion or anti-gravity. It is believed Tesla had discovered that high amounts of electricity could actually create lift in an object.
Throughout the 1920s and 30s, Tesla continually talked about anti-gravity ships that could derive power from his Wardenclyffe towers that were going to be broadcasting power. He claimed that these ships did not have wings or fuel. They were completely electric.
But were Tesla's designs truly the first of their kind? Or is it possible, as ancient astronaut theorists suggest, that similar vehicles had already visited the planet in the remote past?
In the ancient Indian epics, the Vedas, we find references of vimanas, those flying chariots that were used by the gods in order to travel from point A to point B. Some of these vimanas were able to alter direction at the drop of a hat without any effort. So now reading this from a modern-day perspective would suggest that some type of anti-gravity device was used. You could link this from the ancient to the modern world with the modern UFO phenomenon. And so the idea that Tesla might have worked on an anti-gravity device is very plausible to me.
Are the depictions of flying machines in ancient Hindu texts, like the Mahabharata, really proof that Tesla had received otherworldly knowledge in order to design anti-gravity spaceships? And if the so-called mad scientist actually did make contact with extraterrestrials, is it possible he continued to carry out their wishes in secret? The Singapore Air Show, February 2014. An Israeli arms company known as Rafael Advanced Defense Systems reveals details of a laser defense system capable of shooting missiles from the sky with a pulse of energy. The futuristic military hardware is called Iron Beam.
The concept of Iron Beam is that it's essentially a high-energy laser that is designed to rapidly heat up the target that it's aimed at. We're talking about aircraft, drones, missiles. Anything that could launch an attack on a city could be literally destroyed in the sky by Iron Beam. This sounds very much like Tesla's death ray.
This is exactly the kind of technology that Tesla was talking about in the 1920s and 30s, of using these beam weapons to shoot down missiles and projectiles.
The War Department sided with Einstein and Oppenheimer's atomic bomb, not with Tesla. But now what we're seeing is that Israel is developing this iron beam technology because they realized that atomic weapons were far too destructive. Is it possible that Tesla developed a time viewing or time travel technology, and that he became aware of these developments?
Tesla was once quoted as saying, "The present is theirs, but the future for which I have really worked is mine." Did Tesla, in fact, see into the future? Might Iron Beam be proof that plans for the death ray not only existed, but also may have even been confiscated and carried out by the United States government? There are those who believe that Nikola Tesla was not only in contact with extraterrestrials, but was sent here to Earth by them to fulfill a mission and usher in a new age for mankind.
One of the big questions is, who is Tesla? Is he, in a sense, an avatar, an enlightened being that comes to the Earth to help humans? No one really knows exactly what's going on, but I think all great artists, and Tesla saw himself as an artist, feel that they're instruments of a higher purpose, and Tesla certainly felt that he was working along those lines.
There is an agenda for humanity. There is a plan. And in every generation, whatever power it is that's behind the plan sends to Earth certain specific souls who are by birth more inclined and able to be receptors to the higher knowledge.
You have to wonder if Tesla was transplanted to Earth by extraterrestrials in order to envision and invent all of these amazing devices.
If extraterrestrials put Tesla in place for a specific purpose, did they accomplish what they hoped to achieve? The answer may be no. Because if Tesla's technologies had been openly acknowledged here on Earth, we could have greened the deserts, we could be desalinating ocean water with tabletop energy levels, we could have a totally new and different world in which we don't have to pay for energy, in which we have anti-gravity craft, in which we have teleportation technology, and in which we truly have become a golden age here on Earth. That has not happened